Hi there. We are with Allison Brindley. There she is. And this is Ralph Harris. I'm actually in the room with her behind the
He
camera.
really is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's camera shy though, so
Yeah,
he's hiding.
I'm embarrassed. Embarrassed easily. We've asked her to tell us a bit of her story about how what she's how she grew up, or how it is that hope has found a place with her, what she's found with Jesus, and how that discovery went for her, what she's got now. So, if you could tell us a little bit about that, and however you'd like.
Okay. Well, I was raised in a Christian home. Kind of had your typical middle class American experience throughout the years. Really blessed to have really never known a day where I didn't know about Jesus. I can't remember a time where I didn't know the name Jesus and I didn't know the story of what he had done for me. And embraced that at a very young age. And went about life doing what I believed was the Christian way to walk. And was really good at being really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And on the flip side, though, I can also not ever remember a time of not being really anxious and fearful and worried that I would disappoint people, disappoint God. So I took that anxiety and I worked really hard at, again, kind of being good and doing all the Christian-y things that I thought was important to do. And they weren't bad. A lot of time at church and doing youth group and serving and young life ministry and having my quiet times. It was a lot of doing.
Stuff.
Yeah, all good stuff. A lot of doing. And I felt a lot of pressure. And it wasn't making the anxiety and the fear of the what ifs happening go away. And I think I almost started, my hope, I think, was if I could keep failure and pain and hard things out and really be pleasing to God, that life would be good and I would have all the peace and the joy and the love and the patience and I'd have all that fruit. And so I was working really hard to get the fruit, but coming up short a lot. And felt dissatisfied inside a lot of times. Although I don't know that anyone looking at me would have any idea. I looked like I was living kind of, the perfect life. I was a teacher. I had gotten married to my best friend. We were, again, I said, like in ministry, we were happily serving the Lord in the young life ministry.
This was a good normal for you.
Yeah, it was a good normal. But my insides oftentimes felt empty and dead. Maybe dead's a strong word, but I felt empty and very tired. And I was striving a lot, like I said, to keep things going as well as they were, or striving to make them even a little bit better. Yeah. So
kind of the Christian ideal, we think.
Yeah, right. I mean, I had this, my life should look like, a Family Life Today episode. Of these principles that we live our life by, and it just was tiring. It was really tiring, but that's all I knew. And I was, like I said, I was a teacher, elementary school teacher. I had really never experienced a ton of failure in my life. I think I didn't make the soccer team in 9th grade.
Ooh.
But other than that, everything really had gone as I wanted it to. I felt like I had to work pretty hard to get the things that I got, but I got into the college I wanted to. Like I said, I married the man I wanted to. We had a baby in 2005, in March 8th, 2005, and I was about to stay home with him, with our son Drew, and kind of live again this perfect stay-at-home mom life. And I had all these dreams of how that was going to go, but that turned out a little differently than I thought it was going to happen. So
how'd that happen?
Well, Drew was 6 months old. It was September 16th, 2005, and I got a phone call that Chris had been in a car accident. And I had imagined this phone call This is,
Really?
yeah, I had imagined something like this happening. And I mean, it was my biggest fear, losing Chris, especially now that we'd had the best 6 months of our marriage as parents together, and we had, the hope of what life was going to look like
Yeah.
together as a family, and the 2.5 children that were going to come, and all of that. So I had imagined, oh my gosh, what if? What if he's injured, gone? And in my imagination, I melted down and completely lost it. In reality, I got the phone call, and it was instantaneous that a peace came in to my heart, and I just said, I trust you, Lord.
What was that phone call?
The phone call was that he had been in a car accident. I needed to go to the hospital. And it was pretty brief. It just was factual, and I went and let the rest of the story unfolded as he was pretty much killed instantly in the car accident. And I mean, life changed. Life changed in an instant, externally.
Yeah.
But internally it changed too. Because these words of, I trust you, Lord, were not how I ever imagined getting the phone call that life might be turned upside down forever. And the peace I felt. And the Spirit just came alive in a way that I'd never experienced before in the 25 years almost that I had been a Christian. As Ralph often talks about, as you, Ralph, often talk about, forgetting that you really are on the other side of the camera.
I told you.
The unseen became so real to me, almost instantly. And the process of grief and, what it was like to walk those next minutes, hours, days, months, none of it was easy, but everything that I had learned of God and read of God became real.
Yeah.
It wasn't just on the page I read the verse about the peace that passes all understanding. I went, oh my gosh, I know what that feels like now.
Yeah. So what you'd read, maybe what you'd been told, what you knew in your mind suddenly came forth from your heart as, oh my gosh, it's all true.
It's all true. I actually said that several times.
Did you?
This is all true. And I had the sense too, like the heavenly realms felt opened up a little bit too, because the man that I loved and thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with was no longer in front of me. He was in the heavenly realms. And I got the sense that, not that he was speaking to me from the dead, but I just got this sense that Chris is like, it's all real too on the other side.
Wow.
This is all real. Like, keep going because it's all real.
Someone you knew better than anybody was on the other side.
Was on the other side now. And I went, boy, heaven's real. Because Chris has to be somewhere.
Yeah.
And he's there. I just knew it. Yeah. In my core, I knew that is all real, and what's in me is all real too. Yeah. It was, the veil was lifted, briefly in that period of time.
Didn't you say that the greatest fear you had, which when it happened, the worst,
yes,
suddenly everything.
Yes, everything, like I had said, I imagined this happening. It was my worst nightmare. Yeah. But when it happened, I was so free from fear.
Amazing.
It was amazing. It was like the actual opposite of what I ever thought was going to happen or should happen. But I didn't have to keep it away anymore.
Yeah.
And I was held by the Lord in such a real way. And I think at one point it felt like I just had the image of kind of the Israelites walking through the Red Sea and just in awe of God's power. And that's how it felt, that I was just in awe of who God is in us. Yeah. And that peace and that transformation of everything that I might have even doubted or wondered, because I think for a lot of my Christian walk, I didn't doubt God, but I doubted me. I doubted my commitment to Him. I doubted, do I really believe this? am I doing the right things to know him? I just doubted me. And again, it's almost instantaneously, um, when I learned that my life was turning upside down, and again, the biggest thing I had feared happened, I didn't doubt anything anymore. The doubt was gone because his presence just came forth.
So he proved himself to you.
Yes.
And drove out your fears.
Yes. Just, yeah, like last week's your sermon said, that trials will prove your authenticity, improve God's authenticity in us. And that, when you said that, I went, yes, that's exactly what I experienced when Chris died. I don't want to make this sound like, oh, it's awesome when your husband dies.
Yeah. No, you're not.
No, I don't get, because the hard was really, really hard. The loss, the grief, the feeling abandoned by him, even though I knew it wasn't his choice. But just the loneliness, but meeting Christ in such new and real ways in the loneliness. I couldn't trade that to have him back, to have Chris back. I couldn't.
Wow. You'll never lose this.
Yeah.
No matter what happens, you have him.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was, it really did reveal that real hope is Christ in us. That is the hope. It's not the world that we can build around us. It's not, I kind of thought of my attempts to create a safe space and fear and failure being gone from, or, kept out of my life, as building a fence. And I wasted a lot of time putting up all these pickets to keep myself safe, which, it's pointless. We can't do that anyway. But I tried really hard. But when God just had the fence collapse completely and said, I have a different version of safe for you than what you think is safe. Your circumstances being perfect or pain-free is not true safety. I was fearful and afraid the whole time, actually, when I was trying to do that, and really tired from trying to make all that happen. But the experiential knowledge of knowing that God is with us through absolutely everything, the hardest things we can imagine, that's real safety.
Yeah, he's not just hanging out with you or around you.
Yeah.
But he works inside of you.
Yeah. He works.
Overcoming all those fears or things that you thought were your weaknesses. And he shows up in them.
He shows up
Here I am.
in such powerful, tangible ways. And in the really hard and sad moments of just grieving and missing, and my husband, and grieving over all of the things I thought were going to happen, but feeling and knowing God's presence in those moments was really beautiful, really beautiful. Kind of picturing him scooping me up and hugging me and crying with me. This is a pretty powerful moment that I had, actually, in the days after Chris died, but just with my own personal father, who stayed with me at the funeral home, the visitation time, and the rest of the family was going to go out to eat, and I just couldn't leave. I just didn't want to leave. So Drew and I stayed behind, and at the funeral home, and my father also stayed behind, and he gave me some space to kind of be in the room where Chris was, and but I had some painful grieving moments, and I kind of crumbled a little bit to the floor. And but my dad came, and he bent down, and he wrapped his arms around me, and he cried with me. He wept with me. And I won't ever forget that moment, because God said, this is what I'm doing too. And this is how I grieve with you. I get down, I wrap myself around you, and I cry with you. And I don't tell you that the pain, that you shouldn't cry, or you should be thankful for this or that. I just cry with you. And those kinds of lessons or just experiences that where the Lord is showing me how real He is through people, but also through His Word, and just in lots of different ways. It was beautiful, and it gave me new hope. Of my circumstances don't have to look like I think they should look in order to know that God is with me and to be in the right place where God has for me.
He is your hope.
He is my hope.
Yeah.
He is my hope.
That is tremendous. Thank you. Thank you for sharing it with us. That is
Thanks for that.
it's a life changer for us, for me. Thank you for doing that.
Thanks, Ralph.
Yeah. Bye, Allison.
Bye.